What is up, everybody, and welcome to our latest episode of Sibling Rival-Read, where my sister and I sit down, we read some comic books, and in this case, a
Manga.
couple issues of a manga, and we sit here and tell you, with our incredibly highbrow intelligence, that a book is good or bad.
Okay.
Right, Anna?
Yes,
So,
indeed.
this one is from you.
Hello there.
Yeah, technically. Yeah. So I get to give the synopsis.
Right. What's the book though? You gotta start by telling us what the
Oh,
book is.
it's Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow.
Red, blue,
Volume
green, and
1.
it's Pokemon
Red.
Adventures.
Dang it. I'm in the table of contents, okay?
I
I'm not
gotcha.
at the title page.
And the story was written by Hidenori Kusaka with art by Mato, and I'm sure that I absolutely butchered those names.
Hey, at least you tried. I wouldn't
did.
have tried.
Well, okay. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Okay.
give us a rundown of this book. Why did you choose it first?
Well, I feel
No,
like
I'm
I
sorry.
cheated,
I guess we
didn't I?
usually start with the summary, right?
Yeah.
Give us your brief Cliff's notes. Everyone watching should have read the book at this point, but tell us about it.
Okay, so the story starts out with meeting Red, who is the Ash-esque character in the manga. Um, and it follows the first two chapters are following him beginning to become a Pokemon master. So I mean, in those first chapters, you briefly meet Team Rocket, Professor Oak, and Blue, who is like the Gary-like character. Um, and you see him get his Pokédex and all of this and that. And from then on, it becomes very episodic. So like each chapter or like in the contents, it's called adventure, is like its own little mini episode. It has a very short conflict and resolution turnaround, going from uh Kangaskhan, when you see the little baby in the Kangaskhan pouch, and you see how compassionate and um insightful that the red character is in his Pokemon journey compared to Blue's kind of one-track mind of just doing what needs to be get done. And then you see the introduction to the Pikachu character, who's like a little vigilante, kind of like the Squirtle from the anime series. um, and
Would you call him
uh,
a vigilante? I feel like he was more a menace.
I saw him as like a cowboy.
Okay.
Definitely saw him as like the.
I'm out here being J. Jonah Jameson to Pikachu's Spider-Man, and Anna's out here defending him.
All right.
Pikachu is a menace.
But anyway, so so yeah, so you meet Pikachu and then you have like the briefest contact with Brock as the gym leader, and like that's the first time you get to see Ash, or not Ash, Red. Red have his first Pokemon battle with a gym master or a gym leader. And
Can we
then
talk about the gym battle real quick? I think
yeah.
I want to change up how we do this a little bit because I think we can talk a bit about the story while we do the summary. But I really truly loved some of the how the gym battle played out with like, okay, you've got this day and you're going through, and You uh, you have to beat a certain amount of trainers before Brock will even give you light of day, or you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to
It was
say.
very like a wrestler match thing, where like the
Yeah,
reigning champ is the last one you face, and
yeah,
it was even in a wrestling rink.
yeah. Which was I thought it was. I enjoyed that aspect of it quite a bit. And yeah, I was really impressed with how they tackled that aspect of it. And Brock was definitely a different kind of gym trainer than he uh, is in the anime.
He was
And
very hardcore. Lacked the compassion that you saw him
right,
display in the anime like all the time.
exactly. And I thought it was fun to watch the portrayal in the manga. I so far I enjoy Red a lot more than I enjoy Ash.
Okay. I
Um,
find them pretty similar. I know that it seems like you don't, but I thought that they were quite similar.
they're similar, but there's I don't know, like this Red is actually out there trying to catch them all throughout this book.
Mhm.
And I don't know, there's a little more interest in the, like, how do I explain what I'm trying to say, in the science behind what they're doing. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
So moving on from the gym battle.
Oh, moving on from the gym battle. Then the next like really significant moment that I remember was when he meets the Misty-like character.
Well, Misty. He
Um,
meets Misty, not Misty like.
oh yeah, she was named Misty.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't okay. Anyway, when you meet Misty and like the gone crazy Gyarados,
Mm-hmm.
which I know that Bulbasaur is my favorite Pokemon, but I mean, every time he came into the manga, he was so derpy and adorable, and I loved him. Like, when he got splashed with the water from Gyarados, he was just like, "Ah, a bath." It was adorable. Um, and so then you meet ooh, I hit my computer. And then you meet Team Rocket again when they're trying to figure out how to fix Gyarados. And like their Team Rocket is way more hardcore in terms of they all almost died.
Yeah.
um
Definitely a hardcore Rocket gang.
yeah, and then from figuring out how to save Gyarados and getting the stone that they had to go and get to like essentially reverse everything that happened from Team Rocket. You then follow Misty back to her hometown and you find out that she is the gym leader. And her and Red, even though Red's like super pig-headed in the beginning about not like thinking or conceited, thinking that he knows everything anyway, and it's really not a big deal. Him and Misty train together, and then they depart. They part ways. Um, and then
Which
there are
does he
then
get the badge?
no, or at least not that you see, because they're
Okay.
just training together. They don't actually fight the gym battle.
Right. But I don't know that I want to see more for sure. Because I almost feel like Ash training with Misty was almost like Misty's gym challenge, and I kind of dig the idea of the fact that the gym challenges might be different depending on um who you're battling. I could
But
be
yeah, I
completely
loved her
wrong.
gym in the anime being the pool. I thought that was the coolest thing ever
Right. And I mean, yeah, I mean, it could be that that's still, you know,
to come.
yeah.
I'm interested to know if like Brock and Misty's characters reappear in the manga.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think yeah, I agree. Um anyways, I keep cutting you off.
That's okay. I'm used to it. And then there is, and then there is an entire like adventure or chapter where you learn about Pokemon transfers.
Bill.
Okay. And yeah, like the Bill Nye the Science Guy-esque character
But his name is literally Bill.
does a yeah, but it's not Bill Nye. Does a does a little oopsie and joins himself together with a Rattata and is half person and half rat Pokemon.
As one is, you know.
It was interesting. There are totally the moments in the manga because I grew up watching like very few, but a few anime where like in that adventure or that chapter where he's like, come and help me or come and save me, and Red just looks over to his Pokemon and they're all like nodding. You can just hear like the little squeaky that you would in the animes, and it's so funny.
Yeah. I
Those
think
moments were so funny.
I think it was really interesting because like going from that and seeing it play out, it plays out similarly to the game, but not quite the same as the game. And I think like the next chapter after the Bill one, where they're on the SS Anne,
Yeah.
is like is a huge like factor in how in my perspective of that, because that's where they run into Lieutenant Surge, who
Yeah.
is the next gym leader. Um,
But yeah, but he does all the
yeah,
naughty things.
he's like as bad. He's like doing the Team Rocket stuff,
Yeah,
but
but
it's not
he's
Team
doing Team
Rocket.
Rocket stuff like the TV show Team Rocket stuff, not
Right.
like the let me kill you, even though, he attempts to kill him,
Yeah.
I guess. So,
I mean,
there's
it got dark. He wanted to zap him while he was in water. Like
yeah.
there's some violence.
And then his Poly Whirl gets buff.
Yeah, becomes Polyrath.
Yeah. I like Poliwhirl. He's so cute. Or not Poliwhirl. Poliwag is so cute.
Yeah,
I would not be part of that like club that you experience in this chapter where they're like, "Oh, I only love my Pokemon if they're in their first generation or
they're
their
the
first
first.
evolution."
Right.
I
I
would not
only
be that
like them while
crazy.
they're cute.
I felt so bad for that Abra when he was reunited with his uh
With his
trainer or
his
whatever.
trainer. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and his trainer just cried because he got older. And I was like, look,
Yeah.
he evolved and he was just like, oh, that I felt so bad. That was sad.
It cracked me up though. Because it's like you see this massive Alakazam just like it's like, hey, Pa.
And
Do you still love
yeah.
me?
Yeah, and Red is just like, he's still the same.
Right.
It was a very like it was sad.
It was.
It was
It was.
comical, but in a sad way. Um yeah, and then from that we get a like little side story of a bike marathon thing for Pokemon trainers.
Oh
Which
yeah.
again, Bulbasaur was adorable. He thought he was gonna get eaten by Snorlax.
Oh gosh. The Snorlax. I loved that. Like the massive Snorlax.
See, Lord.
It was I love Bulbasaur was definitely um totes adorbs throughout this whole thing, and just the art with the Snorlax was so great. Doom.
Oh man.
But yeah, and you know, one of the other things that I really enjoyed throughout this is the art of the Pokemon in their Pokeballs.
That was my favorite part. Was that you actually saw them in their Pokeballs and you could like communicate with them through the Pokeball, and you
Uh-huh.
saw Bulbasaur being like all freaked out when he saw other Pokemon in their Pokeballs because he was like, I'm antisocial. And it was so cute.
Yeah. Um,
And
and
it made
the
me think of your Pokeball that I got you for Christmas or whatever for forever ago. And I was like, that's actually how they would be.
Yep, right here. Boom. Got a little Eevee in it.
Yeah.
And it's heavy as
It is. It is. It reminds me of those like crystal balls that I had as a kid, and I hit my head with them, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have a concussion." I didn't, but yeah, it's totally what it reminds me of. Um, but yeah, the Pokeballs in these were one of my favorite things about the entire manga,
Yeah.
manga,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
manga. manga. Um. Anyway, and then the last two chapters are all centered around like
Lavender
the worst
Town.
haunted house ever.
I love Lavender Town. Like in the games, like I love Lavender Town. I love the music of Lavender Town. And the entire time I was reading these chapters, I could just hear the do 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 like the whole time.
I like lavender. That's it's about as far as this was terrifying.
It was, but
Like,
in
the
like
illustrations were terrifying, it was overall terrifying in a very artful way and everything, but nightmare-inducing.
absolutely 100%.
Like, the
But
melting Psyduck?
uh-huh. Yeah,
No, did not like.
absolutely. Um, but I was still a really big fan of this chapter, and it was really interesting.
It was terrifying, but yes, interesting.
And like I think it highlighted the humanity of Red and the lack thereof of Blue, um, as well in this part.
I can
Um,
see it. Yeah.
because of like if the roles were reversed, do we really think Blue would have gone in after Red? Kind of thing. And just like
I feel
Red's
like, though, you don't experience Blue as in depth as you are with Red, so to make a assumption like that, you can't really make an assumption like that.
okay, that's fair. I'll allow it as a
Which, again, I know that I'm not supposed to compare the manga to the anime, but, like,
I
Gary
know,
would
I
have
know.
totally gone after Ash. He would have been a prick about
Yeah,
it.
this is true. He would have used it as a thing to hold over him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Um, but yeah, and then I mean that was really the end is getting through Lavender Town
Yeah.
of this first book. Um, and I know you and I kind of talked about choosing this book together. A lot of it was like I don't think either of us really had a whole lot of time to research what kind of manga we wanted to read, and
Mhm.
both of us grew up around Pokemon. At least I did, and
And I
ye-
got, like, the dwindling from that by being, "Oh my god, I love my older sibling." Naive.
yeah,
But, yeah.
my how things have changed.
Uh, Yeah, but I mean, you were more so into Pokemon, and I
Yeah.
kind of just went
And
along.
this definitely was a big nostalgia trip, for sure. But also a one that I
Bless you.
oh, excuse me. One that I would really love to continue going down. Like I have two more volumes of the red, blue, green
Mhm.
Pokemon adventures, and I do think I'm going to read through more um, in between our other books that we're reading a lot of.
Right.
Um,
I have to say that in terms of like my interest in continuing it, I don't have that much, but I also didn't have as strong of a nostalgic factor as you do.
and I think that's really the only thing that's like keeping me drawn to it, you know,
Mhm.
is the fact it's Pokemon, and I want to see more of where this goes. Um, I'll have to show you. There's a anime like a YouTube anime series of
Okay.
Pokemon um, that is really really good, and it's red and blue instead of Ash and Gary,
Mhm.
but it's probably some of the best Pokemon animation ever, and they're short little episodes, but
Like
they're
the original.
no, not like the original, because like the original are still half-hour episodes. These are like
Okay.
10 minutes
The
maybe.
original are like 20-minute episodes. You have
You know
to
what I mean.
consider all of those episodes had commercials when
Yeah,
those are still a
you
thing.
understand what I mean. It's still these are still shorter because
Yeah.
they're at max 10 minutes. Sit here and argue that bullshit with me.
But
Um, but yeah, I think it would also give you some additional appreciation for the manga here, because yeah,
I would read this again just purely or continue reading it purely for the Bulbasaur moments.
yeah.
He was so cute.
Well, the cover of the next one has Bulbasaur as Ivysaur. So do you still love Ivysaur?
I
Uh,
do.
got a hair in my mouth.
I do. Bulbasaur is just my favorite Pokemon. Therefore, his entire evolution can like be grouped into being my favorite. It's just
You and Shelby would get along because I think Bulbasaur is also Shelby's favorite Pokemon.
it's because he's so perfect.
Um, but yeah, oh man, I should have worn my onesie.
Yeah, because we were doing Pokemon, you fool.
Dang it! Oh well, I'll wear the onesie for our 4 issue recap.
Okay.
Um,
You
you just have to
fool.
remind me. You have to remind me. I'll
Okay.
forget. I'll forget. Um, but yeah. So beyond that, story wise, it was very shallow, and
It was very, very episodic.
it definitely was. Um, I did. I enjoyed how you got to see Red's interactions with everyone. I think looking at this volume as a whole, it was it had ups and downs for sure. But if I were to like break down issue by issue, I really liked the first couple. Um, I really I really liked the Misty arc, and I really
Mhm.
liked the Lavender Town arc. Um, wasn't super sold on the Lieutenant Surge arc. Um, Team Rocket is actually like interesting as a villain in this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's part of why I want to read more of it is because Team Rocket's a much more interesting villain
Villain.
here. Um, but yeah, I I enjoyed the story. It
I think for me,
like I
sorry.
said, like shallow, and it was very much. I wouldn't say the story was pandering. I feel like I was looking for something to pander to me, and this did that. My love for Pokemon is there, and I think my interest in manga is still there as well. I think a lot of my interest in manga is going to stem from animes that I like or like worlds that I really enjoy in general. Um, so it'll be interesting to read more of the ones that you legitimately choose because I know you're not going to
Yeah.
choose ones that I would otherwise read. So I think
Yeah, which is also kind of why I'm bummed that I didn't do that with this one, but I had a really hard time, like, when I picked next month's, I
uh
really sat down and spent, like, an entire day
hmm But you know
researching.
what I think this is like if you're someone who comes and watches my content, you've come and watched comic book stuff and some most of what you see here is Pokemon. So if you're watching my content, obviously there is some interest in Pokemon for you. And if you haven't read any manga, I feel like this is a decent gateway drug for manga, essentially. Like okay, I've never really read manga, but I do love Pokemon, and you jump into this, I don't think you would be disappointed.
For me, the story, I do think that it's a manga that anybody could really jump into. I also think it's a probably, at least based off of this volume, a manga that you could literally jump into at any point and not feel
Like you're missing
overwhelmed
anything.
or confused. Yeah. Um, with that being said, story-wise, I was kind of let down only because uh I enjoy a through line of some sort to kind of carry my interest into to seeing what happens. Like there was nothing in this that gripped me to be like, "Oh my god, but what happens?"
Uh-huh.
Um
So part of
and
that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Part of that, I'm curious how much of it is the difference between a comic book and a manga.
but I've read manga before.
Okay.
Different,
hmm
but I have. And they do have through lines, even if it's just like general like these 3 volumes are this one storyline, and then, there's a cliffhanger at the very, very end to make you be like, "Oh, but what happens next?" Like with
hmm
Sailor Moon or with, the Mew Mew Power ones, they all have a main goal, and here the only main goal is to catch all of the Pokemon, which, I mean, population continues to grow, you're not gonna have a comic book or a manga end with that being the finale. Like, I feel like what I was hoping for at some point maybe was a through line of being like, "Oh, but what is Team Rocket's, like, main goal?" Which you never really interested in something like that because there isn't any intrigue, it's just a quick introduction into them. So
hmm
maybe in the next few volumes, that becomes a through line that carries people to read them more so. But I think for me, that's where I was kind of about it.
Okay.
Um But I mean, it is a good manga for somebody who is just starting out with manga. It is a good, um, like, taste because you really could just grab a single issue or a single adventure and be set.
Absolutely. I do agree. I think I would still recommend starting at the beginning. And I mean, you know how
Yeah.
sick I am usually of origin stories in general, but I think there was a lot of positives in this one.
Yeah.
Um, tell me about the art.
So, I enjoyed the art. I mean, there wasn't much that I felt was super awe-inspiring. But that's also, I'm not very good at critiquing something like that for manga because I don't think I've read enough to really be like, oh my god, this is totally a style that I prefer. As long as I can like read it and not be like, oh my god, I don't like this art at all.
Mm-hmm.
Same with a comic book, then I'm pretty happy. There were some beautiful moments for sure, but I think most of the time, the panels that I just really, really liked and I'm probably gonna come across this a lot in manga, are the ones that make me laugh, or when you can, like, hear the sound effects that you think would go with the moment, um, type of a things. Like, if you grew up watching, like, Teen Titans or Pokemon or anything like that. I think, or I'm hoping that I'm not the only person who did this. Growing up when you're walking around at school or whatever and someone says something stupid and in your head you just have that like little teardrop or little like artery pop in. You're like, "Oh, that's my cartoon moment." I really hope I wasn't the only kid that did that. But so, I mean, any panels that were like that just made me really laugh and captured my attention, was super adorable. My favorite ones for the art overall, that I thought was just really stunning, like, point, other than the Pokeballs, because the Pokeballs were awesome,
Right.
was all the way in the beginning when, like, you meet when, you see Ash and Blue when you see Red and Blue go opposite directions and you have that profile panel in the sky and then the two walking
Mhm.
is a beautiful moment, kind of cliche, but also it captured the milestone perfectly.
Uh-huh. I
Um,
I feel like it was a it was very tropey. You know,
yeah,
like definitely. But as far as what I understand is that's what manga is, like that's what anime is also. It's full of tropes.
yeah. Um, I think that overall, the Lavender Town art, just because for like the sole reason that it creeped me out. It was done really, really well, at least to a point where I genuinely was like, "Oh dear God, this is terrifying." um, it was done really, really well, and I really like the I think it's Adventure 13's like little um cover where you see all of them in the rain and all of them are miserable except for Bulbasaur, and he's just like, ah, ha, 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 ha," having the best time.
Yeah, I pretty much I'm in the same boat as you. Like any art that Bulbasaur was in,
Was
I was a
adorable.
it really was. Um, I
And I mean, little Pikachu's little like forehead artery going like pulsing. It was so funny, so funny.
yeah. I really liked the Bill as Rattata art. I thought that was just so silly and ridiculous, but I was such a big fan of it because like it was like things like that where it's like that happened in the game too, but due to what they had available to them in making the art, there wasn't a whole lot they could do to really show that that's um, what they were going for. But
Right.
I loved it. It was fantastic.
But see, look at how happy Bulbasaur is, and all of the others are in
Hmm.
such distress.
Yep. Um, yeah, I think all in all, like art for manga is gonna be different. It's gonna be difficult for me coming up with favorite panels. Um,
Right, because it's
because
such character
they're
study.
yeah, and they're not trying to like they're not trying to make an entire scene in a panel. They're not doing the same thing that comic books are doing. Um,
Mhm.
and that's okay. It's definitely not what I'm used to, but I could definitely get behind enjoying it.
I think from now on, I think I like for mangas, I think I have to kind of if I had to grab one moment to be like a sticker that I would stick on something that I really, really like,
Yeah,
or the cover of a notebook. I think I have to think about it that way.
I think that's reasonable. Um, I think these things are going to become more of my like what's my favorite story or what's my favorite issue kind of thing, because I mean this had
Yeah,
13 issues in it and
14.
14.
Mhm,
And from looking at the size of other mangas, it's not going to be very different
mhm.
um, going from one to another. Uh, but yeah, it's fun.
It is
I
so fun. I reading them very much feels like you're watching a show
it
unfold.
it really does. I agree with that, and I respect it differently because of that. I'm gonna be interested to read other mangas because I don't know. I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few, especially if we're reading, first volumes, that aren't
Mhm.
going to have a consistent through line from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. Um,
I'm expecting more cliffhangers in the future. That like this one didn't leave you with cliffhanger. That I think that's just what I'm expecting because those are the ones that I gravitated towards given
uh
I've only read like 4 other than this one,
yeah.
and that's just how they all ended, was with huge cliffhangers.
Well, we'll definitely see because we're going to be reading one a month essentially.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, it's gonna be good. I think this was a good start for manga for us.
Mhm.
Let's get into our ratings though.
Oui.
Story, I already mentioned, like I thought it was pretty shallow, but nostalgia was hitting me really hard reading through it, and I do think that it's a good again gateway into manga potentially.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
Again, this
Mhm.
is from me having never really read any manga at all. It took me God knows how long to make sure that I was going the right direction in my Comixology app. Because I was
Aw,
thinking, oh, cool, I'll just be able to use guided view on this and not have to worry
and then
about
you
it.
couldn't.
And then you can't, which is fine. Um, I think for me, I give the story on this a 6.
Okay.
Again, it was shallow. There wasn't a lot going on, and you're right, there wasn't that through line. If you had me like pick individual issues out of this and rate them individually, there are some that I'd probably give like a 9, but there are also some that I'd give like a 3. So I feel like 6 is a reasonable grade for this. For me. And I'm trying to remove my nostalgia bias from it. I don't think that's happening 100%. But six is with me attempting to remove nostalgia bias.
I mean, I was between a 6 and a 7. I think I'm gonna lean more towards the 6 because I'm gonna rate it a little higher on the art, I think, than the story. Um, and that really is just because of the through line. I do though think that it's a really great starter. I do think that you could probably like if you were at a random stand and they sold them by issue instead of in the volume, you could really just pick up an issue and be like, "Oh,
Is
hey,
that
this
how
is
they
totally
do?
my thing."
Is that is
Huh?
that how manga is sold?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I've only read them as the volumes from Barnes& and Noble and from the used bookstore.
Right.
So, I have no idea.
And we always get translations, so I imagine that whatever translations come out, they're only coming out in the volumes. Man, I was in Japan and I never
Not
really looked at a
necessarily
comic book
because
stand.
Well, no, not necessarily because like apps like Manga Storm or Manga Reader is a free app where you read manga and you can read ongoing,
Mhm.
which then releases issue by issue.
Yeah, but I imagine you're still waiting for someone to translate it, obviously.
Yeah, but the people on like Manga Storm and Manga Reader are
Actively.
anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not like professionals and they're
Right.
publishing it. They're
Mhm.
just scanning it
Okay.
and translating. Um
Good to know.
yeah, that's where I came into a lot of issues with picking stuff for our list. But anyway, but yeah, so I think I'm going to give it a 6. Uh
I think
but I
that's
do think it's a
reasonable.
good starter and it's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super reasonable, honestly.
Um and then do you want me to go art
Yeah,
first?
do it.
So then for the art, I'm going to give it a 7.
A 7. Okay.
I'm going to give it a 7 mostly because this is our first one.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I don't really have much to compare it on compare it to.
I think that's
So I feel like
reasonable. Yeah, I can
7 is
understand
high
that.
enough that I did enjoy the art. Um, I did enjoy the art a lot. There wasn't like something that made me go, "Oh my god, this is the magical, mystical, amazing." Which I don't know if that will happen, but I feel like I can't really make that judgment until I have other things to compare it to.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I think it's funny. This is the first book where we're rating exactly the same for both. Um,
Yeah?
yeah, because I agree. I loved the art. I loved the little facial expressions, and I love the style. This um, this style. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot for me to get used to in reading something that's only black and white. Um, which is it didn't hurt the book in any way, shape, or form for me.
Mhm.
But
I like it for Kindle. That means that I can read it on my Kindle and not be upset that, I'm missing out on something.
that's fair. And yeah, I didn't even think of that for like a an e-ink reader. Yeah, manga's great.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I also gave it a 7. I I loved the little details and everything, and I think with it being just the black and white, you kind of appreciate those little details a little more because it's not as necessarily as busy.
Yeah, and I mean, the emotion that they give all of the characters and the panels makes up for missing the color. Like, I don't miss color when I was reading any of these
Exactly. I agree.
because there was so much, to really, really appreciate about it.
Hmm.
I mean, look at Bulbasaur singing in that panel.
Yeah, and look at how distressed Pikachu is.
Yeah. So,
Um,
and I know that I'm probably rating this lower than I would if I reflect back on this, like, 3 manga afterwards.
uh-huh.
I might come back to this and be like, "No, this was actually, like, one of the best one art-wise," but I can't say that.
It might be
Uh,
fun to go back like at the end of the year and do this just with the manga and go back and look at the books and just re-rate
I agree,
um
I agree.
re-rate these. I think that might be just a fun little off thing to do.
Yeah, like a
Um
year in review. That'd be
yeah.
fun. And then we can
Uh
each have our own ratings for which ones were best for each thing.
yeah, when we can rank them.
Yeah,
I like it. I
I
like
like
it.
that.
We're going to completely forget to do that, everyone. But
I will not!
okay, Anna says she won't.
Set a reminder, New Year's. Okay, you go first for overall.
Overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 because I think the art like really did push it over the top for me in
Mhm.
making it enjoyable. Um, yeah, I think overall I would give it a 7 just because I stopped and stared at a lot of pages and tried to soak up a lot of details and
Yeah.
things like that.
I I took so many screenshots because I knew we were gonna talk about what our favorite panels were, and I think I had, like 39 or 40 screenshots saved,
God.
and they were all just like these really small little thumbnails. I was like, ah, ha, ha. But I was also going to give it a 7 for pretty much the same reason. The art made up for what I was missing in the story to make it more the 7 than the 6. And
Yeah, I think I think you and I are on the same wavelength here. 100%.
yeah, which was weird. I was
know.
expecting you to be like either die hard love it or absolutely hate it because of how much of a fan of Pokemon
Mm-hmm.
I know you are.
I'm trying to be objective.
Okay.
Like I'm doing my best.
But as a Pokemon lover, absolutely loved it more so than
Yeah. Like if I let nostalgia take over, I'd probably give this overall an 8.
okay. One whole point.
Yeah, but I mean it's if you're looking at something and you see that something's a 7 out of 10 versus an 8 out of 10, you're
There's a huge, yeah,
in your
opinion
mind I
bias.
feel like there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah,
Well, because
I was
7
happy
is
with this.
technically average.
It is. And right now, we don't have a next book for. Well, I guess are we announcing our next books at the end of this episode?
Oh, I froze.
You did freeze.
Um, um, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we have what our next month is going to be.
We do.
But our next episode is still
Our next
an
episode is
announcement.
going to be our review of the last 4 issues of Sibling Rival-Read. I'm gonna put together like a fun topic for us to just kind of chat about comic book wise.
Okay.
Not necessarily related to any of the books that we've read or anything like that, but just some kind of weird topic like regards to movies in the comic book world, or um, maybe both of us can watch the first couple episodes of WandaVision. And
I did last
you
night.
did? Okay, I haven't yet, so no spoilers. But yeah, so our next books, the next book is going to be my book. I chose a DC book this time, and it's going to be Zatanna, the Paul Dini collected edition, which I started reading. Oh my god, that book is long.
It wasn't my fault this
Yeah,
time.
no, I chose a Robin Wars length DC book as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Zatanna is where we are starting. And then after that is Anna's Choice, and that's going to be our Marvel book.
Which will be House of M.
Yep. And we're going to do just the main story of House of M. Like the main arc. We're not going to jump too much into individual issues. We're going to follow the main arc
The
of House of M.
collector's edition, just like we did for Robin War.
Exactly. And then after that is our third party book. And that is going to be, I think it's Dark
Your
Horse
pick?
Comics. Yep, and it's my pick. We are going to read Volume 1 of The Legends of Vox Machina. Which I'm excited to have Anna read, because obviously the other thing that you typically see on my channel is D&D, and this is a D&D comic book. So I'm excited to read through it. And then our last one is manga again.
And I picked it this time again, but this time fully me.
Yep.
And
I've
it
never heard
is
of
Witch
this.
Hat. What?
Because I've never heard of this one.
Well, I hadn't either. But it's Witch Hat or Atelier,
Mhm.
which I picked because when I was researching all of the manga that I'm now adding to our to read list for next few months or whatever, this one was raved about for its art. So I'm interested to see what that would entail. I know very little
Awesome.
about the story. I literally just picked it because of the comments about the art.
Seems reasonable.
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm excited that we finished our first batch of episodes. Um, I'm bummed at some of the technical difficulties we've had and how long it's taken us to get here.
Yeah,
But
but we're learning.
we are, and I'm hoping to for it to get better. I just looked at the cover of Hat Atelier. Oh
Isn't
my
it
god.
beautiful?
Yes, it is. But yeah, so that's going to be what's coming up. Next Monday is going to be a more shoot the shit kind of episode, and we'll
Have
kind
to
of
roll the wheel.
we'll have to make the wheel and roll the wheel.
Yeah.
Make sure if you're watching, leave a comment down below. Let us know what your favorite part of the book was. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, any of that stuff at It's Benpai, ITSBENPAI. And Anna?
I am on Instagram. I have 2 accounts, one for art and one for personal stuff. And personal stuff is mostly my dog. So the personal one is Anna_Riddick, and then my art account is A Riddick Designs. All one word.
Yep. Alrighty. And that's the Star Wars desk that you're currently doing is coming along really nicely. It looks great. So yeah,
Thanks.
be sure to follow her. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to keep your pull lists full, and we'll catch you next time.
Doop-a-doop.
Peace out.